Good afternoon, everyone. Are we excited to be in Nairobi? The last time I was here was a year ago, and Kenya didn't have a lot of constructions ongoing then. Now there are construction and bridges everywhere. So it shows that there's a movement in the physical world as much as you have in the digital world. My name is Rotimi Ogunwede. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Patricia Technologies, also the Global Head of Strategy and Expansion. Today I'll be talking about crypto. The panelists have done justice to it. I really don't know whether I'm going to make a mess of what they have done, but I'll try to make it as simple and easy as possible. So let's start. It's not clicking. So I heard people talk about adoption, when the panelists were speaking and asking how fast was adoption going to happen. And what I want to talk about is how fast crypto has been adopted in the African space. As of between July of 2020 and June of 2021, $105.6 billion worth of crypto was transacted in Africa. And that's a huge, huge value proposition for the continent. You can look at it and you can see Africa being the top 3 continents in terms of adoption. Then we have countries like Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa pushing through adoption as fast as possible. And we can also see the growth in P2P, right? The essence of the blockchain was to give power back to the people, and that brought about P2P transactions, you being able to send your coin from one wallet to another person's wallet, without the need to verify the person's identity, right? So it's permissionless and it's based on trust. In 2021, P2P grew tremendously within the African market, right? In fact, largest in the world, right? P2P transactions scaled extensively in the African market, followed by Central Asia. And I think this is largely based on regulators in these regions, right? These regions are not friendly to crypto. We've seen a lot of restrictions in the last couple of years, central banks clamping down on crypto institutions and crypto traders, and that has led people and forced people to move from centralized exchanges to peer-to-peer. In all honesty, everybody says Nigeria is the giant of Africa. There's no other way to prove that other by Nigeria is paving the way, right? In 2020, $566 million worth of crypto was traded in Nigeria alone, right? That's higher than China, Canada, and the UK combined. That's to show you the value within the African markets, right? And if you go there, you see Kenya at $55 million, higher than the Philippines and even South Africa. That means there's a lot of wealth transfer happening within the continent, and we're not harnessing that just yet. Like, there's a lot we can do, and it seems we're not doing enough. But I can say Africa is catching up faster than the rest of the world, and it can only get better. We can only expect that adoption is going to scale faster than necessary. For us at Patricia, right, we've experienced tremendous growth thanks to the pandemic. When the pandemic started, it was something that forced every business across the world to make a change in the operational procedures. You move from working in the office to working from home, servicing your customers, offering your services, and still being able to provide optimal capacity. In the year of 2020, Patricia grew from $8.1 million in annual revenue to over $300 million in annual transactional volume. We've never seen that before, right? I don't think there's any, except maybe startups elsewhere in the world, I don't think we've seen that on the continent. And that's a huge one for us. Going into 2021, I'm sure everybody knows what happened. February 5th, the Central Bank of Nigeria decided, you guys are getting too big for us, right? And they put a cap on our growth capacity. Or they thought they did, right? They put a dent in our operations, and everybody suffered. Patricia, Bit Mama, Paxful, Binance, we all had it was a very bad time for us, right? And for us as a business, we actually lost 90% of our transactions in 24 hours. Yep, it was really bad. This was during the pandemic, and we had people come into the office physically to demand cash for their crypto assets because they were scared. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And we had to build trust back in the system. And what the CBN did for us invariably was to create PR for crypto, right? I mean, we had been spending money on advertising, but what the CBN did for us was free advertising. Almost every Nigerian wanted to find out, okay, what's really this crypto about, and why is the CBN so against it? That led to a higher adoption. Yes, crypto to fiat transactions were frustrated, or are still frustrated, and that's what led to the growth in P2P that we see here today, right? And it's been explosive. And what are the drivers of this explosive growth, right? Nigeria and Africa has the largest young population in the world. And they just need to get busy, right? It's like there are no jobs on the continent. And the easiest way for them to get jobs or make a living is the internet. And we've seen people take up Fiverr, Upwork, the gig economy, right? We've seen it grow. And people got into crypto. As of March of 2020, one Bitcoin was about $3,000. And by November, it was about $30-something thousand. So for the average African, that's a massive wealth creation opportunity, right? That led to explosion, right? There's high inflation rate across the continent. Currency management I think is a fundamental problem across the continent, right? And if you had $1,000 in January, the buying power of that $1,000 now is not the same thing, right? Because inflation has edged into it, and people are trying to hedge their savings and hedge their wealth. So it only makes sense to put your money in something else. Now, on the flip side, a lot of young people don't understand the stock market because it feels like it's meant strictly for a certain niche of people. And crypto has decentralized that, literally, and given power back to the masses. Then we have remittances. Remittance is a big deal, right? You have families in the US and the UK, you're trying to get money home. The banks are giving you a hassle, transfer charges, Telex, Swift. So something happened to us in Patricia. We had 6 mothers come to our office because they had kids going to school in the US and they couldn't move money across. The banks were shut down in the middle of the pandemic. And the kids had Cash App, but there was no way to get money to them. So they came to the office and said, we had this crypto, how can we do this? And I spoke to them personally and I was like, okay, you know what? Test it out with $100. If your kids don't receive the $100, we'll refund you. And 6 of them were like, these guys are young. Are you sure they're not trying to scam us or something? I'm like, no, don't worry. Just give it a try. And one of the mothers was, daring enough. She's in her 60s, by the way. So we opened an account for her. She registered. She put $100. She sent it from the wallet to her son's wallet in the US. In 5 minutes, he said, I have it in my wallet. And he withdrew to Cash App. And I was like, it works. And individually, they bought $10,000 each, amounted to $60,000 that day, and sent to their kids to pay their bills in the US. And I can tell you, those mothers today are lifelong Patricia customers. They never went back to the banks. Why? The transaction charges are eroded. Instant value for their kids, right? And the same thing goes when you're sending money from the US to Africa. Your bank tells you, this is how much you can get for your dollar, or it's going to be available in 48 hours or 72 hours, or you have to wait a week for the transfer to go through. That has been taken away. Then we have a new avenue for trust, right? Just like they were saying on the other panel, there's a barrier to what you can access, first based on your nationality and based on where you are. That has been changed, right? On the blockchain, I really don't care if you're Chinese, whatever. All I know is I need your wallet address and I can get something to you. I don't really need to know your nationality. I don't need to know your race. Nothing stops us from doing business, exchanging money, or doing anything, or verifying our identities, right? And that's a new avenue for trust, right? And it's trust that is not based on bias. It's trust that is based on verifiable evidence, right? It's weird when we hear, for us in the crypto space, when we hear people say, oh, Bitcoin is, shady, crypto is hidden. But a lot of people don't know that if you go on the blockchain and you type in someone's wallet address, you can tell how much has gone through the person's wallet and how much has gone out, right? So you can't, in the blockchain, your identity is there to prove that it's you, right? And I met a guy in London called Nick, who has built an amazing product where he has been able to map the veins in your finger to your blockchain address. Yep, so you can verify your identity on the blockchain with the veins in your finger, right? And that's the power of the blockchain. That's the power of cryptocurrencies, and we need to get on it. The unbanked potential across the continent is ridiculous. We have 1.7 billion adults worldwide that do not have bank accounts. And the barrier to opening a bank account is a big problem. How many foreigners have tried to open bank accounts across the or another country? Do you find it interesting? How easy was that? That's the problem. But on a blockchain, you don't have to go through that. Your identity can be verified in no time. We have different KYC companies that can verify your passport in 10, 20 seconds. And I'm not going to be biased against how much you can trade, right? If I want to open an account in Dubai, I need to provide a residency permit. I need to do this, I need to do that. Same thing in Kenya. I need to get a resident permit. I need to get a tax ID. It's frustrating, right? And it's a deterrent to people to coming into the financial sector. The blockchain has taken that away. With a phone number, with an email address, as little as a phone number, you can get on the blockchain. And you can have an account, and you can get a fair share of the global economy. Nigerians unbanked actually represent 4% of the world. Now, if Nigeria represents 4% of the world, what do you think Africa represents? A big chunk. So that means there's a huge market in Africa, right? There's a huge potential. There's a thriving workforce. There's a young generation that can be banked and can get into financial inclusion. I hear people talk about financial inclusion a lot, but it sounds like the governments don't care about it. They pay lip service to it, they talk about it, but nothing is really done. We've heard about the African Free Trade Continental Agreement. It took a while for countries to sign on. They signed on last year. We haven't seen anything. We don't even have open skies in Africa, and we call ourselves Africans. It's like the continent continues to create barriers for growth, and that's what the blockchain and cryptocurrencies have come to solve. In 2017, nearly 60% of Nigerian adult population was unbanked, but thanks to fintechs and agency banking, that has changed. There's a guy here wearing an OP hat. I'm sure the experience tremendous growth in Nigeria, right? And they started with the ride-hailing business, the Okada business, and they moved it to agency banking. And the banks are scared of them, and they don't even have bank structures, right? Apps, you go to an agent, you get your cash, you make a deposit. These guys don't have barriers to finance anymore. Unlike before, you have to go into a physical bank, fill out forms, get an ID. It's frustrating for a lot of people. And that's changing, right? And access to mobile devices have actually contributed tremendously to the growth in Africa. They were talking about adoption. I heard the man say he tried to get his parents into crypto, and they call him, oh, can I touch this, can I touch that? And I remember the first time mobile phones came into Nigeria, it was a big deal operating feature phones, right? A lot of parents were struggling to, oh, so what do I do? Okay, the green button is call, the red is end. And now, I think you find it odd to see anybody using a feature phone. Almost everybody has a basic smartphone feature. And it's quite interesting. The first time the banks in Nigeria introduced ATM cards, my mother struggled. But I can tell you today, my mother has an internet banking app on her phone. And she transfers money. She got on with the adoption, right? Technology is the future. And we have mobile phones at our disposal. So why don't we build support for these ecosystems to continue to scale, right? For us to continue to reach more people in rural communities. There's a company called M-Copper. They've done incredibly well in bringing people access to the mobile phones and internet. They've done great work at that. And we need to see more businesses like that. The unbanked potential is ridiculous, right? If we could capture the segment just in Nigeria, we're looking at what, $40 billion revenue per year. Now that's money that is left on the table just in Nigeria. Now imagine the money left on the table in Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, Namibia, Gambia, even in North America, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria. It's like we're at war with each other financially, right? But at peace physically. It's not helping the economies. So what does this mean for Africa, right? The future of finance, let's look at remittances, right? You're looking at international commerce. How many people have tried to buy something from South Africa, from Kenya, or from a different country, and you try to get money across? Ridiculous. With crypto, you're giving both parties access to financial inclusion. So the average guy selling bags and shoes in Cape Town and has access to Instagram can send you his wallet address, and you can buy shoes or whatever from Kenya and receive the money, and he ships it over to you. Before crypto, you need to go to your bank, fill a form, request for FX. They send it to, there's a correspondent bank, maybe Citibank in the US. Then Citibank moves the money to South Africa. Then the guy gets the money, less charges, onshore, offshore charges. You've limited the potentials of those businesses because you've created a barrier for financial inclusion. There's alternative investment, right? Like I said earlier, yesterday I was showing my colleague, Bitcoin dropped to under $40,000. To some people, it's panic point. For a lot of us, it's an entry point. Why? You end up $40,000. When it hits 50K, that's a $10,000 profit, right? You can take out your $10,000 and put it into another digital asset. It's investment schemes, right? So it's the same way you put your money in a Vanguard fund, and you get your returns. You take out your returns and you put it back in, or you reinvest. But this is an alternative one. We have mobile crowdfunding. How many people heard about the NSAS protest in Nigeria in 2020? That was a big one, right? And the banks started shutting down bank accounts of people that supported the movement. But the youths were actually able to raise funds through crypto, right, to fund the protest. Like, now imagine what you can do in terms of fundraising as a startup. You can literally tokenize your equities and you raise money from the people without having to go through the bureaucracies of a listing agency, ratings, somebody evaluating your businesses. Trust, basically. We're looking at financial instruments, right? A lot of people have talked about CBDCs. A lot of countries are adopting it. We haven't seen so much in Africa. But we know that a lot of African countries are already contemplating deploying their CBDCs and see how it works. one of the benefits of having your CBDC on the blockchain is you're giving the world access to your currency, right? Without the barrier of FX changes. And that's instant access for your citizens to have access to international finance. We have ICOs, right? A lot of people talk about ICOs and wonder what they do, right? Initial coin offerings is like a company going public, but this time you don't have to go to a listed exchange like the Nigerian Stock Exchange or the London Stock Exchange. You can literally do your own ICO and people believe in you and they buy into it, and you grow. We have stable coins, right? USDTs, USDCs, BUSD that are pegged to the dollar or pegged to the pound, pegged to the euro, one-to-one. And these coins enable you to do instant transactions on the blockchain. We've been seeing a lot of news in the West, crypto-backed ETFs. A lot of them are coming up, and that's to show you the growth in the crypto world. You have DeFi. The last panel we're talking about DeFi, NFTs. Like 2021 was the biggest year for NFTs. A lot of money went into NFTs. A lot of money came out of NFTs. But NFTs are the future. I can tell you, so when you registered for this conference, they'll send you your pass. That pass could have been an NFT, valid on the blockchain, and it verifies that you actually registered for this conference. That's an NFT. You can buy a car, and your proof of ownership, the paper that the government issues to you, you don't need to get that paper, right? Global warming, you can plant more trees, you don't cut down trees to print more paper. You can be issued an NFT as proof of ownership, and it's very viable on the blockchain. You can buy a house, and your deed of assignment or your deed of title is an NFT. That's the future of finance, right? We've got staking. You got a couple of coins, you don't have need for them. Put them up, 8% APR or 12% APR. You make money from that. Alternative savings, very similar to alternative investments. Lending and borrowing, like we said, if you want to take a loan out of a bank today, somebody's going to ask you for collateral. Somebody's going to ask for how am I sure you're going to pay back? Right, then you need to go and get your father's house, the deeds of your father's house, whatever investments you have saved up, proof. Show them like, see, I'm good for $20,000 loan. It's very different on the blockchain. You can take loans against your digital assets easily. You can take loans against your NFTs, right? It's almost an instant access to finance and opportunities. So how does Patricia step in? We've been able to build a simple and intuitive UI that a lot of people need to test out, right? We have our V2 launching in a couple of months, and it's going to blow the continent away. Usage and adaptation. As of today on the Patricia ecosystem, you can pay for DSTV from your crypto wallet. You can buy airtime from your crypto wallet. You can buy internet from your crypto wallet. If you're conversant with West Africa, I'm sure you know WAEC. You can buy WAEC scratch cards from your crypto wallet. And there are more features that we're introducing into everyday use cases for crypto. And that's what we're preaching, right? It's crypto made easy, and it's going to go around the continent. Our goals, we've been able to do 50 million every month, right? We know with expansion, we're going to do $1 billion every month, right, across the continent. We're expanding our OTC desk to have the largest largest desk in Africa to serve the continent. 3 million users. I mean, as of today, Patricia has over 800,000 users, split between Nigeria and Ghana. So these 3 million users sounds like nothing, right, when we expand into more countries across the African continent. We have over 500,000 active users on a monthly basis. Those are people that actually trade and engage with crypto. That's a big deal. We're going to be going into 15 countries in the next couple of months. Like I said, I was in Dubai a couple of days ago, and surprisingly, the UAE is very bullish on crypto. They've literally set up an entire zone to take care of crypto companies and help them in, get into the country and operate. Whereas African countries are kicking us out. Nigeria kicked us out. Europe embraced us. We're going to be launching a new product called Patricia Business, which is going to enable businesses, small SMEs, large businesses, accept crypto as a form of payment for goods and services. And you can also make payments. So imagine a large corporation in Kenya, and you need to get $2 million to your merchant in Malaysia, right? So you either go to the bank, you get your LC to show that you're good for it. Another problem. So even the big corporations also need to prove that they're good for the credit, right? The corresponding bank sends it to the bank in Malaysia. Oh, yes, I respect your LC. Okay, then both of you can trade. That's going to be fixed with Patricia Business. You can literally send your coins and get instant trade across the continents. We're launching an NFT launchpad, right? Because the African market in terms of artists is amazing. Our music is like the best in the world. Like I was in a bar yesterday called Street Kitchen, and I didn't hear one foreign like Western music. That's interesting. Like back in Nigeria, when I was in a bank like 11 years ago, when we go to the clubs, we used to hear more of hip hop, Jay-Z, and the likes. Now, if you go to the club in Nigeria now, you probably hear Wizkid, Omale. I can't recall the last time I ever heard an American rapper in a club in Nigeria. It's maybe when they're doing throwbacks. But our goal is to launch the African artist and the African creative economy on a full-scale platform, right, where you have access to global economy, you have access to global shareability, and you can do so much more, right? All I can say is, in the next couple of years, more adoption, right, is going to happen as communities start to grow. More investors and traditional players in these sectors. Explosion in the NFT space. It hasn't exploded yet. More blockchain enthusiasts and experts in Africa. I met a lady yesterday that has built a community in Kenya. Amazing work she has done. Fully decentralized exchanges are going to be coming up. Institutional managers would have to participate, right? Fund managers across different banks, financial institutions need to get in. In the end, these are conversations we need to keep having. We need to keep pushing, and we will try and continue to do the most. I leave you with this video. Have fun.